Hi, I'm Peter Cramp, and I'm behind the Economics Factory resources. I've been thinking about topics that might be due to be tested in the Edexcel A Economics exam this summer. Now, this might be because they've not been tested for a while, or because they're highly topical. Before we get started, please remember what I'm about to say. You may wish to give the topics I'm about to mention some extra revision time, but you must revise thoroughly across the specification. If you attempt to rely on question spotting, this is a recipe for disaster. So, turning to paper 1 micro, we look at topics that might come up in the longer questions. Now, there are quite a few major topics here that haven't yet been examined. For example, there have been no long questions about monopolistic competition or perfect competition, though last year the related concept of contestable markets was tested. The fact that the Competition and Markets Authority is currently investigating the market for vet services may make the benefits of competition a sweet spot for a question. Although there have been plenty of questions that would have allowed students to use the concept of government failure in their answers, there hasn't yet been a longer question directly about the concept of government failure, so there seems to be a real possibility here. Negative effects analysis and consumption look topical with regard to smoking and vaping, and also alcohol, where there is an increasing trend towards the consumption of zero alcohol beers. Thinking further about topicality, the water industry has been very much in the news for various reasons, including the dumping of raw sewage into rivers by water companies, so negative effects analysis, and controversy over the right level for the regulator, Ofwat, to set the price cap. There have even been debates about whether the water industry should be brought back into public ownership. So there are many different parts of a specification that could be examined using water as a context. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the water industry feature either on paper 1 or on paper 3. And finally, the same applies to the national living wage, which saw a substantial increase in April 2025 and a further increase in April 2026. The pros and cons of increases in the national living wage would make for a lovely 25 marker on paper 1, but due to the crossover with macro concepts such as unemployment, could also easily feature on paper 3. Now just a brief ad break before we look towards topics for paper 2 macro. Each year I use my due topic analysis to write 2 new practice papers for each of the 3 papers for the Edexcel A specification exam. You can access the 2026 papers and the papers from recent years, as well as a model answer to every past paper question since 2017, my revision guides, and much more with a membership of the Edexcel A Economics Student Exam Club. Memberships are for an individual student, and they run until after the paper 3 exam in the summer. Simply scan the QR code now to subscribe. Moving on to paper 2 macro, one topic standing out is that of youth unemployment and the associated concept of NEETs, those who are not in education, employment or training. There are growing numbers of NEETs, and 1 in 8 young people in the 16 to 24 age range now fall into this category. This has been so much in the news recently that I've got quite a big hunch on this topic for either paper 2 or paper 3. Remember, however, it is only a hunch. Along similar lines, it's been difficult to escape protectionism in the news. Trump's tariffs may prove too difficult for examiners to resist, and it's worth bearing in mind that there has not yet been a longer question on the concept of comparative advantage. Question 6 on the first 2 papers is always divided into several parts, of course, and there are so many aspects related to trade and protectionism that could be tested. Other concepts to look at include economic shocks, given that we've faced several in the last few years. By coincidence, we're probably facing another right now, with the fallout of a conflict in the Middle East. Related concepts include the causes of recession and also how demand-side policy might be used to prevent or alleviate recession. In the past 2 years, I've noted that there have been questions about supply side policy. So managing demand through fiscal and or monetary policy would be a nice counterbalance to this, and it could well come up. Finally, for some time, I've been expecting exam boards to ask questions about the UK's sluggish economic growth. Our trend growth rate appears to have slowed from 2.5%, which has often been cited in the past, to little over 1% since the financial crisis of 2008. The possible causes and effects of this would both make great questions, as would the costs and benefits of either slower or faster growth. So thanks for being with me for this quick tour of possible topics for this summer's exam. Please do remember what I've said. Don't rely on these topics, and please don't come chasing me if they don't come up. Revise thoroughly, revise effectively across the entire specification, especially given that question 6 on the first 2 papers is compulsory. You don't get a choice, you don't get an option which question to tackle. However, it might be worth just giving a little extra revision time to the topics I've suggested. Certainly can't hurt, right? And please do remember the amazing support that the Edexcel A Economics Student Exam Club has to offer. This, I think, really is the revision resource of the summer.